Welcome to my newest show called Let's Talk Dragons with RPW. So yes, this is what has been in store. Another new show for you guys. It's going to be coming out as often as I can possibly put one out, which is really up to you. If you're interested in being a guest here on my show, please be sure to hit me up online. My in-game name, my line ID is the same as my in-game name, except all the letters are going to be lowercase, Royal Pain Wife. So be sure to get with me. Now, today we will be going over our first interview with kickinbahk, and I'm actually going to be joining him here in a few hours on his live stream, which should start at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for me, which will be 6 p.m. If you guys want to hit that link and come over and see what his channel is all about, be sure to join me over there. Now, again, guys, this is a new show, so bear with me. I am going to definitely be putting together some really cool things here. And the idea behind this is to, of course, shorten up Talk Dragon Tuesday, because whenever I put in these, interviews, it can become an hour-long show sometimes. So we're basically splitting those up and making a news channel or a news show, which is the Talk Dragon Tuesday. And then we're going to have a separate show, which is where we have a little talk show with other guests. So again, if you are interested, be sure to hit me up. Now, guys, later tonight, we'll actually be getting ready for our drawing for this past Talk Dragon Tuesday. So be sure, if you have not already got your entry in there, to go comment on Talk Dragon Tuesday, get your entry in so that you can possibly win a $20 in-game pack for this week. All right, guys, let's go ahead and hop in this. I'm pretty excited because this guy is really cool. He seems to be really down to earth and really fun and really easy to talk to. So I think you guys are going to like this conversation. Please bear with me. It is a lengthy one, but I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. All right, we've got kickinbahk here with us today. And if you don't know who he is, he actually has a channel on Twitch where he does live streams and stuff. So I want to welcome him to the show. And of course, everybody go check him out. But let's talk about this season. Welcome, kickinbahk. How are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me, RPW. I'm doing really well.
Awesome. So what about the season? What do you think of it so far?
Well, I mean, this season, I feel like there's been a lot of conversations around so many different things. I tend to be the type of player that just takes what is given and accepts it as the new challenge. So, with like the cost increase and stuff like that, which I don't know, I see both sides to that argument, but to me it's like, well, that's what it is. I don't think they're changing it. So how do I do what I want to do, which is in this case, the case of this season is getting the mythic hunter. And so my, I've been really focused on that. So far, I've actually been really impressed with Cavaleris, which is crazy. Like, I'm a hunter flyer, like, through and through. But that warrior is not terrible. He's pretty good, which has blown me away. I just have gotten Sylphin to. I'm at the gold stone on his page, and so it's been a little bit harder for me to test him. Yeah. I haven't really gone out and tested him. I saw a video of, I think it was Lutris flying him against Andy K, and I think he beat the base and soloed it. Well, not soloed it, because there were towers left, but I mean, I think he got 70% with a green Sylphin. So, like, that dragon strikes me as a lot better versus real bases, as opposed to defenders, kind of like Necrix, like, sorry, not defenders, as opposed to invaders. Because I fly him against invaders, and it's just like, he just gets ripped to shreds. And haven't really dared too much to fly him, except in specific cases. But it's an interesting dragon. Definitely not as overpowered as I first thought they would be. I don't know if you felt the same. Like, when we first saw them coming out, all these elemental resist, all these mage tower or mage super shots, like, converting those into rage. Like, I was like, this is going to be crazy. All our mage towers are going to be done for.
I know. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, right. And the way the shields have worked, I felt like they've been implemented pretty well, where they don't last long enough to make the dragon feel super overpowered if you've got a well-built base.
Right. And of course you want that one way or the other. Like, if you're hitting someone else's base, of course you want it to be OP, but if it's the other way around, you're like, oh, just have a little bit more weakness.
Yeah, well, I think what I like specifically, I've had not a lot, but a fair amount of experience defending against Cavaliers, just because I think there's a lot of him out there, him being the discounted line and all that. And I'm pleasantly surprised with you to defend well against that dragon. You just have to kind of change how you're defending, delaying the, if the defender, or if the attacker comes in and pops that shield right away, you delay those super shots from a rage drain or something like that, to not give him extra rage. And so I think that's actually kind of cool, because then it creates some strategy for the defender as well, not just going in and doing kind of your routine of, okay, queue up those 2 towers, queue up these 3 towers on the kill island, and like watch what happens. Instead, there's a little bit of like, okay, this dragon's coming in, this is the best way to defend against this. So I don't know, I kind of like that a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, the changes, I don't know what you've thought about the changes to the rider. The rider page is...
Well, okay, so I'm 50-50 on that one. I mentioned that last night. It's like, okay, well, in one sense, it kind of sucks, because I could have gotten the rider pretty quickly and then just moved on with my life and made it in some gear. But at the same time, I have really, really bad luck in that forge building. So I kind of like the idea that it's got the epic gear that I can upgrade, because I usually get common and rare whenever I upgrade, whenever I forge anything. So it's like I have a love-hate for it, because I wasn't expecting it, but I know in the end it's actually probably going to be better for me, because I might get lucky to get one that's a legendary for that dragon, or for that rider. So it's like, I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know. It sucks, but we asked for something better when it comes to the gear. They gave us something better. They made it upgradable, but that means we have to give and take a little bit too.
Did they make it upgradable?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, instead of it being rare, like the past ones, it's an epic, and I've already upgraded a few of mine, a few levels, and it definitely makes a big difference.
Interesting. So I would guess it would scale just probably similar to the way epic gear scales.
Exactly. And not to mention, you get to use it for points in this last event.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I was one of the ones that, so at the time that Oksana came out, I didn't have any gear and I didn't have Atlas.
Right.
And so I decided, well, this is the rider. She had dark elemental gear with her, and I was like, I have Necrix, I have Avix, both are dark dragons. Let me get some gear. And shortly after I got a team, I moved to a team that had Atlas and kind of almost regretted it. But, I don't know. I think it will be... Here's what I wish they would have done. I wish they would have made the entire line discounted. If you're going to force everyone to get everything, but I don't know.
Well, we've got to remember, too, that line isn't like the main dragons. The main dragons are 31,000 or whatever, and that's only 25,000. I think I did the math in the end, and it ends up being like 17.5 thousand sigils, and like that's a sneeze compared to a lot of what we spend on the dragons. So I think that it depends on how you look at it. Sure. For me, it's like, okay, if we're talking about getting just like if you're a smaller player, especially if you don't have Atlas, and you get, for example, the discount dragon. I know, unfortunately, the gear doesn't match the discount dragon, but you can always put that gear on another rider you might have from last season that you didn't have good stuff for or whatever. And then you get that rider as well. And it's like, that is a pretty strong dragon at that point for a smaller level player. I mean, honestly, together, when you put those two together.
Yeah, no, that's true.
For such a small price.
If you have Atlas, if you don't have Atlas, I'm sorry, would you be able to actually craft? Do you get any crafting materials from any other way? I don't think so, right?
Well, here is the thing, but it would cost you money. Let's say that you have been on Atlas before, but you don't have Atlas. You will always have access to the Forge building.
Right.
So, but if you don't have the materials, then I think it would cost you. Yeah.
Materials. But anyway, interesting. Yeah, I think it's a little bit early to give full judgments.
Exactly.
I know that I would have possibly been tempted to go for the Rider if they had kept it the old way.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new way, I'm just like, I need to stay focused on what I was doing. I'm excited to see the hunter that they, the next hunter that they come out with as part of the other mythic line.
That's what I'm excited to see. And the festive. I want to see what it looks like and what it is. Not what it looks like, but what its spells look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the festive is interesting. It should be a sorcerer, right? I mean, that's what the rotation kind of has it be.
Right, it does, but people keep pointing out that he looks like another four-legged hunter. So
does he? Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen them, but I don't know. I mean, I've seen where dragons look like they're not even dragons, and it's like, okay, so how can you guess what this is even going to be?
Yeah.
Like Gaxi, she's a hunter, but she, to me, looks like a sorcerer.
Interesting. Yeah. See, I mean, I guess you have the four legs and kind of the stockier body, and it's like, that just screams warrior to me, always.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, they've definitely shown that they can break the mold.
Yeah, especially with the festives, they don't generally follow the same guidelines and rules on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So those are, I mean, I guess those are kind of my overall season thoughts. My focus is very much on the mythic. It was something I was preparing for pretty much since the start of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I'm on fair pace to get it right now.
Now, what about the whole Atlas change on the costs?
Yeah, so again, I tend to approach things with this kind of, I don't necessarily like the sound of that, but...
Right, I know. It's like, okay, you've raised the price of my coffee, but I still want my coffee, so I guess I'll pay it. Crap.
Yeah, well, yeah, and kind of like... So I come from a background of being a developer and understanding a lot of, like, what goes into making a game like this, what, like, the challenges are of just, putting out software that is stable and can support, tons of player bases and, real-time interaction and things like that. So because of that, I also look at something like the change to Atlas Elite and go like, well, I would think that they have metrics in place of like how many people are losing out on.
I would hope, yeah.
On their troops, right? Because that's the big thing that at least the arguments I've seen, are that people are frustrated that they're going to be, quote unquote, able to train less troops. I think you could have trained 10,000 troops a day before, and now you can only do a maximum of 8,000.
Well, I started getting realistic with it, and I noticed, like, because I usually set off a alarm. It goes off on my phone, and it actually says something about dragons, so I knew to go in there and do my troops. But unfortunately, that's because I don't work. But the thing is, well, besides the videos I do right now, whenever I go in and I train these troops, let's say it is every hour, first of all, you're limited on how much gold you can collect.
Yeah.
So on certain days that you need to use gold to upgrade something, you're really limited on what you can do. Number two, the reality of it is a lot of times we forget about it, or, a lot of people work. So it is true that we need more time between, but it just feels wrong in a way that they're saying, okay, we're going to you're going to make less amounts of hats, which is part of what you're paying for, is that ability to pull up those hats and make more gold from each attack. But we're taking that away. However, we are going to expand your storage. Well, that's great and all, but now you're expanding our storage, and it's going to take technically 4 times the amount of time to fill that bar up. So it's like, for someone who works, that's fantastic. They can get up in the morning, do their first set, go to work, at lunch break, do their next set, after work, do another set, and before bed, do another set, and they're making 1,600 troops a day. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of a balance. So I know what you mean.
And one of the better arguments that I saw regarding this was that the 10,000 number, right? That's maximum. That means that you and I may have the numbers somewhat off, but basically their argument was that means that you are waking up like every hour while you're asleep to also train troops.
And it's only 10,000? That doesn't seem to... Well, that's probably because you're gold.
Yeah, probably because of the gold. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but basically it's like the maximum number that you could have trained with Atlas Elite before was meant that you had to be doing things even while you were asleep.
Yeah, but see, that math doesn't add up, because it'd be 8,000 just to do it 10 times a day, which is what I was able to do a few times, being awake.
Yeah, like I said, I'd have to go back. I've only minorly, just because I don't really care about
right.
back and forth. I was only minorly paying attention to the specific numbers. But the basic argument was you would have to be on top of it. You'd have to be able to be training troops 24 hours a day, right? Essentially, and this alleviates that. And so it's like, while the maximum was there, the actual number that you were probably training were able to train was a lot lower, and now there's a good chance you might actually be able to train more. So it's one of those things. I think if people are really frustrated with it, the figuring out exactly what you're training like this week while the change hasn't gone out yet, you can see if it ends up being better for you or not.
Now, here's my big concept on it is I've been telling my players, hey, before you buy Atlas Elite, make sure it's a week that you're going to be able to really take full advantage. You know, like if you take the week off from work, or you're going to be working, less hours or whatever, or you're going to be able to get to it from work, whatever, then that would be a time to get it. However, if you plan on a week where you're working long hours and you're not going to be able to get in the game as much, then it's not worth it, because you're wasting so many hats. So in that retrospect, it does make it worth it, and it makes it to where if they do, the monthly purchases, where you can feel a little more comfortable about investing that $20 versus that $5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you might get busy in 2 weeks. Well, if you can store more hats without them going to waste, then that does make it a little bit more, enticable.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like I said, I at the end of the day, I tend to reserve judgment for
until after, right?
for till I actually get my hands on it and how it feels. And yeah.
I think my only real complaint is the discount rate for a 30-day plan.
Right.
Because in comparison to the way they do it on the other side of War Dragons, you pay $2 for a week, or you pay $2 for a week, $5 for a month, or you can pay $40 for a year, and it's like massive discounts went through. This is only giving you like an extra 2 days.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I just kind of wish they would give a little more to those that are willing to pay, for those types of things. Because, like, for example, if you're willing to pay for a year of Atlas Elite, then you can get a regular Elite half price or something of that nature.
Interesting. Yeah. I pay for both of them at this moment, so yeah, it's any discounts would be appreciated.
Right, yeah. Give us a discount code.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just, this is where they got me. They give us that free week in the very beginning, and you get so used to getting so much So that week goes away and you go and you attack someone. You're like, wait, what? 100 and some thousand gold from one attack? What is this? Like, you just feel like a failure. Like when you're going to loot for lumber and you get 20,000 out of what it said would be 200,000. You're like, what? No.
Yeah, for me on the regular side, it was about the XP. I was just like, you mean I'm only getting like 30k XP? That's what I get now. So at the time I was getting like 18 per dragon. I'm just like, oh, these runs are gonna take forever, and that's what kind of got me into main game elite. And then Atlas Elite was the hat regeneration. I mean, that's
Now I have a lot of alts, and it's a lot to keep up with them. So I usually do like this shuffle with them. So I got like Lady Royal Pain, I got Mrs. Royal Pain, and whatever. So I can't afford to do these elites on all of these.
Right, yeah.
So I usually do like a shuffle. Like once a month, I'll bring one in during the breeding event, and I give it a 1 week elite. And then during that time, that's when I get all my XP runs. Because like, $2 every month, you know, bring in an alt and work on its XP and dragons and go from there. So to me, that's whenever the cheaper one's worth it. But on my main, I actually get the annual because the discount is just so much bigger.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Well, what about the fortification event? Are you doing pretty good in that?
I am. So speaking of, I mean, you know, major props to your video. I watched it. Let's see. I think yesterday, as I was kind of getting. Anyway, I just saw it yesterday, and so I turned it on. Really liked some of the tips. I'm a huge planner, and so I actually used, in the comments I mentioned, Erroneous, who is someone that I've talked to. He does another sheet that I started using to actually plan for the mythic. Plan your strategy for getting the mythic dragon for a season. He made some update to Mech Egg's fortification planner, and that's the one I used. And so I had gone through, I think it was Tuesday, and I actually did a video of me just like going through my plan, you know, making sure what towers I could level up, figuring out what points I wanted to hit. I tie the planning for fort and breeding in together very, very much because, for example, next breeding, my next dragon is going to be Scorchel, but I have enough tokens to also get Quetz and Itero, and depending on how hard I'm able to grind, possibly even how. And so knowing that like that's what I want to accomplish in the upcoming breeding, I know, okay, I need to hit certain player levels and certain breeding castle levels, depending on what I want to do. So not only do I look at like the fortification event in itself, but kind of how it will affect breeding going down the road too. And so because of that, it's like a huge plan of like, okay, I need to get this dragon to breedable. What level does that mean I need to be at? What do I need my breeding castle at? Okay, so let's take that information, then look at the fortification planner and how can we make sure to hit those goals, make sure to hit the goals that I want to for the event. And this specific event, I'm like leveling up by 12 or 13 levels. No, I'm sorry, 21 levels.
Wow. Awesome.
Because I need to be able to breed those dragons.
Right.
And the last event I hung back, I actually didn't move a level at all. I was able to do okay in the event and not move at all.
Now, in our team, I actually have like a thing where you can get the RPW event pass. So like if you don't want to move up a level, I do an event pass, and that's one thing I wanted to point out, and I forgot to do yesterday in my live stream, which is, you know, give your player a pass from those if they don't need to grow, but ask them to help like sponsor another player or two that are lower level than them when it comes to their lumber and stuff. Yeah, very big help.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think knowing what you need to do, like I said, to me, breeding and fort are very closely linked.
Yes.
And I know that I think something that I've learned over the past, let's say 3 to 5 months, was how symbiotic they are, and how much I need to figure out what I want to do in one, and then use that plan to affect the other. And it's kind of just this cyclical thing where when I come up on breeding, I'll do a similar thing where I look at, okay, this is what I'm going to do in breeding. How is that going to affect the next fort?
Unfortunately, I've always been ahead of myself in the fortifications because it was so much easier to get points, and I was always worried about my dragons. I've always done amazing in the events, but this past 3 fortifications has gone by, and I have to cry and walk away with a level 41 tower max because I'm like, I keep not allowing myself to breed Apophet yet for those extra sapphire eggs. I can, it's been unlocked, but well, I mean, it's not unlocked. That's why I haven't got an Appa, so that I wouldn't go for it. This way I would stop myself from leveling up any further. And people were like, you still haven't got Apophet. I'm like, you don't understand. I can. I just shouldn't because I will let myself grow.
Yeah, it's really hard to be disciplined.
Yes, it really is.
And I think one of the things that really benefited me early on was at the time the Red Delilah was streaming a lot on Twitch as well as Coach, and I would hop into their streams and I'd hear advice. Even at the time I was like level 40, and they're like, use the dragon check-in, don't grow, use a breeding path, like make sure to build strong, not long, like kind of all the normal things that we all tell new players. But I think that really helped set me on a good path, and I still to this day follow the dragon check-in very, very carefully, and make sure to make considerations for as I'm looking to level up. I'm like, okay, where should I be? What dragon should I have right now? And I think it's a great tool, because I mean we all could do it on our own, but it's nice when someone just like has it listed out for you and be like, this is where your dragon should be if you're at this level, and this is where your dragon should be if you're at this level. And so I know that, like, for example, I'm going to push way up this event, and I know, okay, like, I'm going to need to, 1, lay low, and 2, I'm going to need to really, really catch up on getting some XP on dragons during that time.
Not to mention just the egg tokens alone. Like, some people don't take advantage and go in and just collect, and then you've got players that are level 200s and 300s that are holding down on low-level gold teams or whatever, and it's like, dude, you're slowing your own growth by doing that. Or you've got people that are lucky enough to be, even though they're only like a level 50, clear up on a sapphire team, but it's like, go collect your tokens every day. I mean, seriously, it's not much to click.
And kind of going back to the season, get the egg token bonus.
Yes. Like, well, if you're going to use it, some people don't do the missions, so then it's pointless.
Right. Yeah, you have to use it, obviously, but it's like one of those things of like, get it and use it. I regularly do token runs. In fact, I was like, at the start of the season, I had to go for the discount dragon and make sure I finished that before doing anything else.
Yeah.
And so I went like 2 weeks without my token bonus, and therefore, when you remove the token bonus, it changes the profitability for speeding up the missions using rubies and doing token runs.
It's ironic you mentioned that too, because them changing where we had the PvP instead of the fortification, because a lot of people wanted it, it really sets things off, because one of the things is the first 2 weeks are usually those minor events, and that's when we can work on the discount dragon. Then all of a sudden the PvP will come in the 3rd week, which is when most people jump over and work on their egg token bonuses, which comes with goodies for the PvP. So this switch up this time around has even made that, like, I ended up going for the egg token bonus instead of that 50% off, because to me it is that important, and because of what it gives you in the PvP. But I'm like, look guys, when we ask for changes, this is what happens, and then we get upset and we We don't know why they've done it. It's because we're asking for changes. So there's certain things we don't think of the long-term repercussions that change is going to create.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that kind of goes back to some of the other things we were talking about of like them making these changes and saying like, well, I kind of have to see how it works out because they have more data than we do. And I mean, on this case, not only has it messed up where fortification was and some of like how PvP laid and like all these things, and messed up people getting the discount dragon without them realizing it. All right, so I think that the problem that these small side effects that have been created that the player base didn't really think about or didn't realize is that, like, just like you kind of mentioned earlier, I do think that we will get breeding next week, but we're not sure about that, and therefore I don't know, for example, if I have 2 weeks to get more egg tokens or if I just have till Wednesday next week. I also don't know, that has following repercussions of if they go back to the normal schedule where we get breeding next week, PvP, and then fort again, that means that fort is only separated by 3 weeks from each other, which is another repercussion that I don't think anyone has really thought about, that we're going to have a faster turnaround than we usually have had if they go back to the normal schedule. So,
oh, wow. I never thought of that.
So there's a lot of things that by asking for quote unquote this small change, the community has kind of really caused a lot of, at the minimum, a lot of unknowns. Whether or not they are harmful for them, I think some have been, and I think some, like something like the 3 weeks separation may or may not be harmful. I'm not really sure. But there are all these little things that get missed when a big change like that happens.
That is such a good point. I never thought about the turnaround part. I'm like, oh no, I was like, okay, I can deal with this. Now I'm going, oh no. You're right, 3 weeks between to prepare for this. I mean, that's gathering up more, embers and all. And that might be why a lot of people are scoring so good in this, is because they've gotten an extra week to gather up more pearls and fragments and so forth.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think also at the beginning of the season, a lot of people are going to try a lot harder. It being a season with a Mythic Hunter, a lot of people have a lot of motivation to go crazy. And then you talk about the extended time. I think there are many reasons why this fort seems to have been one of the more chaotic in recent history that I remember.
Now, what another thing is interesting is there was a lot of people that were upset because they're like, look, I was expecting it to be the fort, so I went ahead and opened all my chests with the plan to get more in the next event before I opened up more in the PvP. Now, that to me was crazy because I don't understand. I get that there's this thing out there where it says, statistically, supposedly you get more sigils during the feeding event, but I have, of course, I feel that statistics are different because, like, my daughter, up until recently, she would get crazy prizes from that Bounty Harbor. Like, I would be like, why isn't that my account? Like, oh my God. So the statistics, I think, might range from player to player, number one, because of glitching or whatever. But number two, my biggest problem with opening during things like the breeding event and the feeding event is because it's very event specific. Like, I don't really even love opening during the fortification, like, as in only, like, you know what I mean? I don't put all my eggs in one basket. But in the feeding event, to me, it's always been a lot of food, XP potions, and the XP boosters. And those are great every once in a while. I'm one of those that's like, maybe once a season I'll open not once a season, but once a year I might open up, a couple chests in there just to get those, to have them just in case. But there's a lot of people, I guess, that got messed over because they didn't have all these things come the PvP. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of So coming into the season, I've talked to a lot of different people about what their plans are and what they think is the best value, where to open chests, what events, and there are lots of people. I think I equated it to like, you know, old wives' tales at one point, because everyone has their thing, their recommendation. Like, oh, I only open in breeding. I open bronze in breeding, and all my golds in PvP. And then you hear other people who will say, oh, no, just open every chest in PvP. Like, that's going to get you the best value because you need the PvP resources. I'll preface by saying that's where I fall into.
I fall in a very different place.
Interesting, yeah. Based off of trying to score well to get the mythic, right? If it depends partially on what your prioritization is.
Right.
If your prioritization is getting breeding tokens, which is arguably the most valuable resource
in the entire game,
in this
definitely.
game, then, you know, obviously breeding is going to take precedent. But if we're looking at it for scoring the best in events to get seasoned dragons, that's where my argument for PvP comes in. But it definitely does seem that everyone has their opinion on what that is, and they vary so drastically.
I think, but see, here's mine, and I'll get about mine because I don't think it's out there, just because a lot of people, as I've read, and this is something that I've been saying since I was a low level, or been doing since I was low level, and I still do it to this day. I open every single event except for feeding. I usually try not to open mini during feeding, only because of the thing where I said, like, if I have, you know, 100 XP potions, why would I need more? I mean, not XP potions, but XP boosts. So I don't really open a lot during the feeding events, but I'm one of those that very consistently, every time I earn 4,000 rubies, I will open my gold chest. I don't care, as long as it's in the event. And the reason is because when you hold back, you're messing yourself over. So for example, if you can't get that point achievement, because I know, like, you know, I'm the leader in my team, half of my team doesn't get the scores that some of the others do. And it's like, so they're holding back, they're getting lower amounts of prizes in the end. Now, the thing about the feeding event, the reason I'm not so, you know, crazy about it, is all the other events, they give you things that help you in future events, like scores wise. If in the feeding event, the XP potions actually gave you points,
right,
then I would say definitely in the feeding event too. But being that they don't, I'm one of those that's like, okay, no matter which one you're talking about, you're getting something. My friend, for example, Kevin, he only opens during PvPs, and I usually opened a lot more during forts, and then I would do some during PvPs, and then I didn't open a lot during breedings because it seemed to give me mostly XP potions, just like the feeding event. And he has so little elemental fragments to build up his stuff. I am at level 41s. I've got 5. I've got 5 level 41 elemental flax, and I still have over 40,000 elemental embers. And he can't really level up anything, even though he can go up higher, because he has no elemental embers, because he only opens during PvPs. So to me, you're holding yourself back by only putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you find that you always have enough energy packs and inner fires?
Absolutely. Not in the beginning, not when I was little, because my points were not the best. But yes, I consistently, because it helps me get to that next point level in that event. So like I would say, okay, I go into an event and I usually have like 3,000 rubies. I'll get a few prizes. Next thing I know, I've got 4,000. I open up some gold chests and I'm good. However, there is a little trick to this. The first week of a season, I use the first half of my branch of my egg token bonus. Then I don't open as many chests in that PvP generally. Then I will save the last half of that egg token bonus for the third or the fourth PvP. Or if I find myself in a situation where it's like, oh, I'm not getting very good stuff in chests, so I'll go ahead and open these up. So it just depends. I kind of reserve my 8 token bonuses so that I always score big. I'm usually always maxed in events. However, I don't max as in what other people call maxing. Like, for example, in the fortification event, I don't think anything above the 740,000 is worth my elemental embers or pearls or any of that. So anything that I get after I get to that 450 sigil marker is only lumber builds, because that's a waste. I mean, they want you to spend another 1.68 million points worth of resources to get another 500 sigils, which is 50 sigils more than the one underneath. And it's like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stick with this and use this in my next fortification. So that might be another reason I have so many left over, is I don't reach that 3 million marker. Never do, never will. I'd rather help out other players and help get us better team achievements.
Yeah, do you hit the, so like, for example, this fort, the max team achievement is what, achievement 8, which is 40 players at 1 million. Do you guys,
we're pushing.
Is that something you normally get to?
Never, but we're pushing, because right now I think we've got, like, I'd say 30% of our players have that mark, including one of my alts. I think I can get my other alt there. I have 2 alts on the team right now, unfortunately. Didn't quite get the amount of people I wanted on the team. And then when it comes beyond that, I really, there's players on there that I didn't think would make it have made it. And there are players that don't really play until the weekend. So we're pushing for it. We're pushing very hard for it. So we'll find out. However, we did get the first 4 achievements, which was the 300 sigil marker, in the first 25 minutes of the event.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm like, well, if we can do that, that's very possible. So we're pushing hard. Fingers are crossed.
Totally. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it definitely, it really depends on
what you think you can do versus, well, and
what you think you can do, what your team requires.
Right.
So like the team that I'm on, like we ask everyone to aim for that 1 million mark, to get the extra sigils for everyone. So I think it does depend also, you know, if your team has specific requirements, like you may or may not need to take those into account. Just depends.
Yeah. Awesome. So, but you're pretty happy with where you made it then?
Well, I'm still pushing. I still have about, going into it, I had 20 million lumber and food I needed to get. And that doesn't take into account any like embers or pearls that I was going to be using. And so right now I still have about 7 or so million more that I'm still grinding.
You're still working on that million?
Yeah, the 7 million. Yeah, so I'm pushing to 2.4.
Oh, okay.
Event points this specific event, because one, partially due to where I needed to get to anyway for that breeding, and 2, because I'm also, you know, I'm going all out for sigils at this moment, just because of that goal to hit the mythic one.
You are in a sapphire.
Mythic hunter.
You are on a team that's in a sapphire league with a lot of big players. Our big difference is we're on a platinum team with a lot of lower levels, so it's like they need a lot more help. So that's pretty cool though. I hope you get it. I really do, because that would be awesome. And I hope you guys get the 1.2K as well, because that would be nice, right? And then of course the big thing is people are missing out on that egg token. I mean, on the mission bonus stuff too, for the quests. It's like if you just do at least one of those a day, sorry, and do at least one of those a day, which you can do the easiest one on there, you're getting an extra 100 sigils out of that alone.
Right. Oh yeah, you're talking about the quests.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I didn't notice this until pretty recently, that if you get to chest 6, you get 50 extra sigils. Chest 7 from the quest gets you 100 extra,
and it keeps growing.
8.
But that takes a lot of players willing to actually put in the effort or have the time to put in that kind of extra stuff.
It's true. Yeah. It.
I think the most we got was chest 8. I think it's the highest we've ever gotten.
Yeah, I think so. Because the other thing is, it's a little weird where it shows you what you're working towards, not what you've completed.
I know. It is very weird.
It's like it's compared to like everything else,
it's confusing.
It's like the opposite of everything else, how everything else works.
Yeah, and don't forget to go in and collect it at the end of the day too. So it's like, because I've gotten messed over. I finish a quest, and then I'd forget to go collect it, and then I miss out on that day because I didn't claim that day's quest.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that worked that way too.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately. It's like its own little game in there or something. I don't know. Well, I appreciate your time today. Before I let you go, I want you to let everybody know where they can find you, because you have a lot to talk about over on your channel, a lot of great tips and information for everyone out there. So go ahead and tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. So the main place where I am is on Twitch. I got into streaming with Twitch and kind of began developing a community in kind of relation with another buddy of mine, another Twitch streamer, Pepperoni. So we usually will hang out in each other's chats oftentimes. I tend to stream 3 times a week or so, often Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the evenings, usually around like 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. And the main thing that I often do is I'm usually doing either token runs. One of the things I love about this game is trying to be the best flyer I can, and so there are times where I'm just working specifically on those type of things. I'm blinking on getting my skills up in that way, or doing things for the events, right? Like doing event runs, hunting wood, hunting food, whatever's going on at the time. Because of people coming in and talking, we talk about the game and how people are doing, questions that they have. I can't always answer. I'm not, I've been playing a bit now, and I listen to a lot of players that I believe are way smarter than me, and I try to remember that information and give it back out to people as I can. And if I don't know the answer, I'll try and find it out and let people know once they do.
Yeah, I've seen you actually searching in your videos for people, and I thought that was so cool. It's so that's kind of what I tend to do. If I'm not streaming, like I mentioned, the other streamer that is kind of on Twitch and streams War Dragons, he streams from 1 to 4 or 5 p.m. PST. And if I'm not there, I'm usually hanging out in his chat as well, and we'll answer questions as people ask. So we've definitely created a little community for ourselves and point people to the resources. I can't tell you how many times I've pointed to an RPW video. I think on one of his streams, we actually watched your video for what was the last event we just had? Fight Pits. We went through and watched the video, the Fight Pits video, just so we could all kind of get a refresher and make sure we knew what was going on. So we try and help each other, help everyone who's hanging out in that community do well. And it's always great to have new faces come along and people say hi and stuff like that, and grow and learn together. Yes, it's all about being together in this and being in the community and working together, because that's what the game's about to me. I don't know. I really appreciate that. That is really cool to hear that. I don't have the time to keep up with everybody else's channels, unfortunately, between my channel and then, of course, my kids and my husband and the game. One of the biggest problems is I'm not only doing YouTube, but I'm also the leader of a team. It's I sometimes I'm like, man, if I was just a player, this would be so much easier. But no, I'm an OCD leader.
the leadership roles for a bit so far.
Yeah. What is it?
I said I've avoided any leadership or officer roles so far. And I think that, I can't imagine the amount of time that takes.
Yeah, and you guys see what's on YouTube, but I also answer like a lot of very personal questions. People have me go look at their bases. They'll hit me up. I probably get between 20 and 25 emails a week that I have to, because I'm OCD like that, I have to answer every one of them.
Sure,
And usually I'm really bad about commenting on every single comment. So like, it was funny. My birthday was last week, and
happy birthday!
Thank you. I'd gotten all these like happy birthday wishes online and on Facebook and all these things, and I'm like, This is so sweet of everyone, but I wish they didn't realize it was my birthday, because now, because I'm the way I am, I have to take the time to go through and comment on every one of these so that I don't feel bad and make somebody feel like I didn't listen or I didn't care. But it was awesome. It was so sweet of everybody. But my own little brain issues, you know, puts me in jail.
Maybe you can make a video thanking everyone.
Well, they're different platforms is the problem. Not everybody was, you know, my YouTube people, not even game people. I mean, I've got a huge slew of people around me. I'm very lucky. We're a military family, so we've got family and friends, or not family, but they feel like family, across the world now. And then, of course, I do have family across the world, and then now my War Dragon family, and much more. So.
All right, yeah. Well.
So, but I appreciate you, and maybe we can have you back one day, and then I might just pop into one of your videos here sometime soon.
Yeah, I'd love that. Like I said, we always love seeing new faces, talking to new people people who are new to our stream. Many times, people who are, very well known in the community.
Yeah.
But
you guys should be tonight, right? Like, because you said Friday nights, you should be.
Yep. So yeah, I'll be streaming tonight. Again, yeah, that 4 to 6 p.m. Time slot, Pacific time again, and then. Pepperoni, he usually streams earlier in the day, so
I might hop over and see you right before I put this video out then.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
We'd love to do it. Love to see you in there.
All right, we'll see you then, because that'll be like 6 p.m. for me tonight. I can definitely hit that up, so.
Nice, yeah.
All right, you have a great night, and I will see you later on Twitch.
Awesome.
Bye. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed today's Let's Talk Dragon interview. So, of course, get with me if you would like to be a guest on the show. Anyways, happy hunting.